BTN basketball tonight from Lincoln, Nebraska. And the Nebraska Cornhuskers at Pinnacle Bank Arena to take on the top-ranked defending national champion UConn Huskies. And a good evening to you. Alongside Brenda Van Langen, I'm Kevin Kugler. We're set to go for this one as Jessica Shepard and the Huskers try to knock off a team that's won 85 straight games.
They've won the last 4 national championships, and they've beaten 6 ranked teams already this year.
And the tip controlled by UConn. And this one is underway. Crystal Dangerfield to bring it up. And this UConn team, so potent, so explosive, and so disciplined.
They pass the ball well. They're so unselfish. Man-to-man start defensively for Nebraska.
And Nafisa Collier, who averages over 20 points per game, gets her first 2.
She and Katie Lou Samuelson are averaging over 20 points. They are so tough to defend.
Here's Shepard going to work. Ball swat out of her hands. Saved for Nebraska. And now out of bounds to UConn. The turnover. One of the things that Amy Williams wanted to avoid was turning the ball over.
Well, and that's a better turnover than a live ball turnover that can result in a quick basket at the other end, but you want to give yourself chances on every possession against UConn because they are so efficient on the other end of the court.
Katie Lou Samuelson up top to Dangerfield. And Dangerfield, a little indecision and a turnover.
And Dangerfield continuing to get the start. Chong has been out of the lineup for them, Sanaya Chong, because of concussion-like symptoms. She did make the trip here to Lincoln, though, but she's on the bench right now.
Available to play, though, tonight, we've been told, and we expect to see Sanaya Chong tonight for UConn. She's missed 2 games with those concussion-like symptoms. Jumper off the back iron, no good, and the rebound ripped down by Gabby Williams. Now the push and transition. Nurse scoops it ahead to Samuelson, who misses the layup.
And a good defensive effort that time by Sincor to get back and get a hand on the ball.
And now Sincor driving it up, but it's rejected by UConn and Gabby Williams.
Incredible athlete, Gabby Williams, and it's tough to get a shot up around her.
Collier inside, and a turnover again. Back to Nebraska. Ragged start here in this one. A 2-0 lead for UConn with 8:33 remaining here in the first in Lincoln. Want to welcome those of you just joining us from Michigan State who watched Michigan State get the win tonight. Kevin Kugler alongside Brenda Van Langen. A ragged start to this one here in Lincoln between Nebraska and UConn. Each team with a couple of turnovers, a couple of missed shots, and a 2-0 lead for UConn 2 minutes in. Good catch inside by Shepard, who muscles it up. That won't go. And the rebound tipped to Crystal Dangerfield. Now on the push inside. Great ball movement, and Gabby Williams on the receiving end gets the 2.
UConn does a lot of things well. That may be the best of all. They move the ball so quickly, that quick strike offense. You have to sprint back to the lane because somebody's always running to the rim, but they'll also look for the threes in transition too.
Nebraska 0 for 4 from the floor to start this one off. Dangerfield. The dish to Samuelson, open look, she drains the 3, and a 7-0 start for UConn.
And that's a good start for UConn because Katie Lou Samuelson actually had an air ball her first shot against Ohio State. She drains her first 3-point look here.
Timeout Nebraska. We'll step aside. Exactly the start Nebraska didn't want. UConn jumps out to a 7-0 lead early on here at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Alongside Brenda Van Langen, I'm Kevin Kugler. Great to have you with us tonight. #1 UConn is in Lincoln, and many people are asking, how'd that happen?
Exactly. Well, they were here at the regionals in 2014, and Gino Ariema was so impressed with the crowd support. Even though Nebraska didn't play in that one, they had been beaten by BYU. The crowd was here to support the game. They were very impressed. Previous coach Connie Yori invited them to come back. Nebraska played at Connecticut last year here in Lincoln, and what a great crowd and a great atmosphere here tonight to welcome the #1 team in the country.
Our Buffalo Wild Wings on the floor. You see the 5 on the floor for each team right now. Nebraska off the timeout has gone to the bench. Nysia Eilili on the floor. Allie Havers hits the Huskers' first bucket off the timeout. Nebraska on the board.
And she has that nice face-up game. If they give her a little cushion there at the free throw line, that's a good shot for her to take.
Last 2 buckets, though, for UConn, Brenda, were exactly how they beat teams. Down the floor with quick passing, and then the 3 in the corner on the previous possession to this turnover.
I talk about that quick strike offense. They pass so efficiently down the court and get to the rim. But then as soon as you get back in the paint and cut that off, they've got 3-point shooters, and Katie Lou Samuelson, one of the best in the country, the target off that inside-out pass.
Riley, ball bounced and taken away. The steal. Gabby Williams to the other end of the floor for the easy 2.
And that's the kind of turnover you can't have if you're Nebraska. At the top of the key, it's a run out. It's an easy layup. It's so efficient for UConn to score anyway. You don't want to make it even easier for her to do that. And Amy Williams talked to us today at shoot-around. She says our best defense today is us taking care of the basketball.
And already 2 turnovers for Nebraska. Good look inside, but Shepard can't finish from point-blank range.
She may not get a better look than that. Turned and was right at the rim.
Dangerfield starts it up. She moved into that starting point guard role, as Brenda mentioned, with Chong out. True freshman who's reached double figures already twice this season. But this is not a deep UConn team as compared to years past. In fact, Gino Auriemma doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility with his bench as he has in years past. And there's a look at the veteran head coach in his 32nd season. That record exemplary.
11 national championships, the last 4 in a row. The top 3 in the WNBA draft, graduating last year, and they just roll on as they are undefeated at this point in the season, and that winning streak keeps going.
Good defensive possession for Nebraska. Maddie Simon launching the quick 3, and Williams with the rebound.
And Nebraska doesn't want to take quick shots. They want to play with pace and have hard cuts and move quickly, but they don't need to take the first shot. They need to take a great shot.
And you say play with pace, Brenda, and a lot of people think play with pace means run up and down the floor at a frenetic pace, and that's not the pace that Amy Williams is talking about.
No, when she says I want you to play with pace, it means hard cuts. It means be intentional, be deliberate. She was a hard-working player when she was a player here at Nebraska, a walk-on. That's the kind of teams that she has had as a coach, and that's what she's trying to instill in this team.
Collier barely draws iron on that open look from 3, and the rebound pulled down by Darian Washington.
Collier has the ability to hit those threes, but I think Nebraska is willing to give that shot up tonight here, at least early.
Maddie Simon working against Samuelson, runs inside, runs into some traffic, and a foul is going to be called on Simon. The offensive foul turns it over.
Trying to be aggressive, trying to make something happen and attack, but the team defense for UConn, probably something they don't get as much credit for because they're so potent offensively, but they're such a great team defense, always rotating in the right position.
And Williams turning right into the paint for the easy 2. So smooth when they get the basketball down low.
Williams is an incredible athlete, was a Olympic class high jumper in high school before she had a couple of ACL surgeries, but has such spring. Even undersized at 5'11" can go up over the bigger Havers.
Extra pass inside. Washington could not handle it. It's a takeaway. UConn on the push once more. Up ahead, Williams leading the field with a left hand. Can't get it to go, and Havers the board.
And that's a nice defense there by Hannah Whitish to get around and just bother her as she turned to shoot the layup.
First miss for Williams. Started 3 for 3. Also has 4 rebounds and an assist as Simon tries the 3. There's Sincor for the rebound, and she'll go to the line.
Sincor is such a hard-working player, so strong and composed. Amy Williams calls her a phenomenal kid, a leader of FCA groups, as you see her getting position under the basket, fighting for position against the smaller guard, and getting an opportunity to go to the line.
Well, not a vocal leader by nature on a team that is still looking for that leadership to emerge. And you see that a lot with young teams. This is a team, Nebraska, with only 6 players on the roster who have ever started a game in a Husker uniform. So they're still at this point in the year trying to determine who that leader is going to be that steps up as the season goes along.
As you look at the starting lineup with Esther Ramacheri and Jasmine Sincor, they are junior and senior, or senior and junior respectively, but haven't had much playing time throughout their career.
Taken away for a moment, but then as Sincor tried to secure it, it goes out of bounds off her left hand, and it'll stay with UConn.
You see the matchups here where Shepard is assigned to defend Collier on this end of the court. On the other end, though, it's Gabby Williams that's defending Shepherd.
Offensive rebound, Sanaya Chong right off the bench after the concussion protocol gets cleared, and she hits the deck on her first play.
Yeah, the crowd is wondering how that got called on Whitish. As you watch on the backside, Whitish ends up getting called going underneath on the rebound.
Tia Nurse able to throw it off a Husker, and it stays on this end. 11-3 lead for UConn on the lob in. Huskies will set it up once more. Williams, that jumper not going to go. UConn 5 of 13 from the floor. The problem for Nebraska, they're just 1 for 8 to start off this game.
Yeah, it's difficult to get good shots, and anytime you play UConn, there's that intimidation factor. Should I take this shot? Should I not? There's a lot of hesitation so far for the Huskers.
And this is a common theme with UConn in the first quarter as Nurse hits the free throw line jumper. UConn has had better first quarters than any other quarter this season. They jump on teams early. How much of that, Brenda, is what you talk about, the intimidation factor? There's that point differential for UConn. How much of it is when they walk into the gym, people see them and go, uh-oh, we're playing UConn tonight?
Well, it's a big part of it. And, I mean, keep in mind that they've played 6 ranked teams, 2 in the top 5, the other 4 in the top 15. So they're playing great teams, but they still have that advantage in the first quarter. They just come out and they play with such intensity and such efficiency. Typically in the first quarter, that's how they give that initial shot, that initial shock to their opponents.
Well, if you're Gino Auriemma, you're frustrated right now, but we mentioned that bench is not that deep. Collier and Samuelson are a combined 2 for 9 from the floor, and Nebraska looks up on the scoreboard and they're still down 10 points.
Right, and he said it might be ugly. You know, we have been on the road a lot when you think about it. They went to Florida State, they went to Notre Dame, to Kansas State. All of that combined, and then now coming here to Nebraska, wearing on this team that doesn't have a lot of depth.
4 to shoot for the Huskers, who have missed their last 4 shots. Shepherd has to launch with the shot clock winding down. Offensive rebound inside for Nebraska. And it'll be a Nebraska ball. Good work by Maddie Simon.
So you've already seen a couple of offensive rebounds. Nebraska's working hard, and that's what Amy Williams talked to us about. I want our team to compete. I want to see some effort out there. So you've seen them flying around, trying to get offensive boards, but you've got to put the ball in the basket.
Huskers over the last 4:55, 0 for 5 from the floor and 4 turnovers. And a whistle on the edge and a foul going on Nafisa Collier. And for Collier, that is her first, team second. Riley on the trigger in. Riley Cascio-Jensen off the bench, freshman from Fremont, Nebraska. She's got the ball in her hands right now around the Shepherd screen. Grace Mitchell fires the deep 2 and hits, and Nebraska back with an 8.
6'2" freshman recruited to play on the perimeter, but has been asked to move to the 4, but she has that face-up ability, that perimeter shot. Good confident shot there by the freshman.
Nebraska could use somebody like that to step up and score. We've talked about Jessica Shepherd. She's the only Husker averaging double figures this year.
Yeah, and they need to get scoring from other positions. We talked about the lack of experience for Nebraska. Just with the transition, with players transferring and not coming here, and you know, all those things that have happened, there's just not a lot of experience on this team. A lot of the scoring, all the scoring, the 6 double-doubles on the year, 16 in her career from Shepherd, you know, even more than Gabby Williams and Collier from UConn. So, I mean, that shows the kind of numbers that she's put up during the course of her short career.
And she's been a focal point early for UConn's defensive efforts. 0 for 4 from the floor as Allie Havers now has 4 points. And an 8-point ball game as we wind down this first quarter.
Well-executed inbounds play from the baseline. Havers had a good look at it. We saw her take that free throw line jumper earlier. Good confidence for her to get a few to go down.
Nurse finding Samuelson. Step to her left, got a look, and drains the open jumper.
Yeah, she's an amazing scorer. And last year, just primarily a spot-up three-point shooter, has added much to her game.
Takeaway for UConn. Williams on the run. What a bounce feed ahead and a foul. Williams threads the needle to Kia Nurse in transition on the run, and no one's surprised by UConn doing that.
Well, there was definitely not great court spacing on this particular fast break, but Williams, nice left-handed pass, and we talk about what a great passing team this is. And when you talk to Gino Auriemma, and we had the opportunity today at shoot-around, and it was great just to listen to his wisdom. And you know, he looks at players when he's recruiting them, and one of the primary things he's looking for is, are they a good passer? Do they have a willingness to pass? That shows him they're a good teammate and they're willing to work within his system to move the basketball. And that was a beautiful pass by Williams to ignite the break.
And those two things you mentioned don't necessarily go together. You can find players who are good passers but aren't necessarily willing to pass.
Passers, exactly. And there has to be that willingness.
Allie Havers launching from deep, can't get it to go. 12-point lead for the Huskies. Final seconds of this first quarter. 19-7 lead. UConn shooting 44% from the floor. Nebraska just 21% in the first half. 3 for 14 and 0 for 6 from 3. Samuelson got a look and she drains it again.
Gets her feet set so quickly coming around that screen. Those long arms, such a long high release. Just a beautiful shot. 8
points in this first quarter for Katie Lou Samuelson and a 22-7 lead. Shepard scoreless so far, and she walked with it.
It's
and a turnover, Nebraska's 7th turnover in this first quarter.
You know, they have Natalie Butler in the game now for UConn. Has a little more length. She was going against Collier earlier.
And the quarter comes to an end. A 7-0 run for UConn to end the quarter. The Huskers trying to find a spark. Jessica Shepard has been shut out in the first quarter. Grace Mitchell providing a little lift off the bench for the Big Red. Women's basketball on BTN is brought to you by State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. Back in Lincoln, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and yours. A 22-7 start for UConn as we start the second quarter. Kevin Kugler alongside Brenda Van Langen. And it's as feared, I think, for Amy Williams. A start for UConn that is very similar to a start they've had against most of their opponents this year, and unfortunately a start defensively for UConn that's been similar to most of their quarters this year. They've done a good job limiting Nebraska's opportunities.
Yeah, I think UConn has even looked sharper defensively than they have offensively. That's a nice high-low pass there to start, but boy, Shepard has missed a couple of point-blank shots inside. Collier is not on the court right now. She actually roomed with Collier at the U18s a couple of summers ago for 4 weeks and got to know each other well. That's who was defending her early. Natalie Butler in defending her now, but a little different look that time for UConn as they immediately came in to provide some help. It wasn't Shepard that was inside, but it was Havers, and you saw the UConn players converge on her in the paint.
Shepard 0 for 5 to start, and if Nebraska's going to have any chance of staying close in this game, they needed a big night from Shepard, and so far not able to provide it.
No, when you look at how Ohio State stayed in the game in the first half, it was because of the play of Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell had big shots all in a row to finish the first quarter, to finish the second quarter, and drew Ohio State within 6 at the half.
Just stifling defense from UConn. Havers able to stay with it, though. Gets the rebound, misses the bunny. There have been several shots that Nebraska has missed that were within 2 feet. And the Huskers, 3 of 17 from the floor.
You have to find a way to make those shots.
Williams will give it back to Samuelson. Samuelson got down the baseline and the foul on Eilili. UConn is right in the middle of a Big Ten stretch. They play Nebraska tonight, and on Monday night they took on Ohio State, as Brenda mentioned, and it was a good game for about a half or so, and then UConn just pulled away.
Well, they did. They came out in the third quarter, and you see the shots from Katie Lou Samuelson. She just filled it up. 26 points against Ohio State, and sealed the deal. As I mentioned, Kelsey Mitchell had some big shots at the end of the first quarter, the end of the second quarter to keep it close. But as you talk to Gino and you hear his post-game comments, he said, I knew this was a game about offense. We needed more offensive production. So they just went to Katie Lou Samuelson over and over and over. They went to Nafisa Collier over and over and over, and they stretched out that lead, and then they were able to keep Ohio State away.
Not necessarily something UConn does, is just go consistently feed one player or two players back and forth. Yeah, that certainly worked in that game.
Right, and that's what he talked to us about, Gino. He said, you know, my philosophy is get the best shot possible. Great shot selection is a big reason why they've been so successful. If you're open, shoot it. If you're not open, pass it. And that's the way that they run their offense so efficiently. But he purposefully went to Collier and to Samuelson in that stretch just to separate in the game and also to kind of send the message to the rest of the team. Hey, these are our best two scorers. Make sure the ball is in their hands.
Yeah, it's a little different UConn team than we've seen over the last few years. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a great team, but it is just a little bit of a different roster makeup.
You know, they don't have the size and length of Brianna Stewart and her versatility on offense, or the speed of Mariah Jefferson at the point guard, or the versatility of Morgan Tuck inside. You've got a lot of players for UConn stepping into new roles and being asked to do much more, and it's really been remarkable how well they have played here in the early going after losing those players.
Good look inside from Rama Cherry and finds Eli for the two. Nice ball movement by Nebraska.
And I really like the way Eli plays. She plays with a lot of energy, and that was a good hard cut, and that's what Amy Williams is talking about to her team about fast pace. I want hard cuts to the basket. Be deliberate with your cuts.
Samuelson off on that three. Offensive rebound inside. Another offensive board, and this time Collier gets the putback.
Just stayed with it. Relentless on the boards. They aren't looking extremely sharp. Yes, they are ahead by, you know, the 17 points, UConn, but they don't look as sharp and efficient as they typically do.
Ashio Jensen backs it out. Good play by Washington just to get a hold of that ball. Jensen going to work once more. 7 to shoot. Havers with 4 on the shot clock. And Havers turns that one over. Time to check out our State Farm assist of the game, and a good one.
And a nice cut away from the basketball by Eli. Watch as she just zips in there. And no help defenders for UConn. They actually get them turning their heads a little bit. A well-executed play for Nebraska, and they finally hit one of those point-blank shots that they had the opportunity at.
She had a really good game, did Eli, against Cal. 19 points in that one. As the three is drained by Crystal Dangerfield. And a 20-point lead for UConn. And now a turnover. Dangerfield going the other way, out racing 2 to the hoop, can't get the bucket, and Shepard the rebound. 10 turnovers now for Nebraska. UConn with 4.
And Gina's holding his hands in the air. She's gonna hear about that one. I'm not sure why Dangerfield just didn't go up with her left hand, why she needed to make that a circus shot on the right. She's a freshman, a very talented freshman, but Gino Auriemma is going to be on her tough because he's going to challenge her so that she is the player he wants her to be later in the year.
And Rama Cherry with the 3 for Nebraska. And the Huskers back within 17.
How about that? Only 3 3-pointers made on the year for Rama Cherry, but went up with some nice confidence from the baseline. Watch the passing. A little more patience this time. Look at Shepard inside, reverse the basketball, good cut to the corner. That's the kind of offense you have to run if you want any kind of chance to score against UConn.
Here's Nurse off the inbound. That one won't go, and then tipped out by Nafisa Collier. So it'll belong to Nebraska. 5:54 remaining in the second quarter. And we go back to what Amy Williams was talking about, competing. And that's something that she's going to look for in this instance. UConn's up big. Is her team competing? And I think right now you have to say, yeah, they're still competing in this one.
Absolutely. We've seen them get on the offensive boards. They've been better here with their offensive schemes. And there's a look finally for Shepard. She missed those shots up close, but she came off a screen. She caught that one in rhythm. She's made more 3-pointers than anybody on this team this year.
And a 6-0 run for the Huskers. trying to climb back in this one a little bit. Nurse knifing to the rim. That one's not going to go. Rebound tipped into the arms of the Huskers.
It was good help defense by the Huskers, but Katie Lou Samuelson right there to pick off the pass to the outlet. You know, something happens good for Nebraska. They get the 3 here as the ball is reversed. Shepard has that great face-up game. Didn't make any three-pointers last year, but has expanded her game. She didn't need to make three-pointers. She had a lot of good three-point shooters around her last year. But this year, she has expanded her game, stretched it out. She hits a 3. They have a nice defensive stop for Nebraska, and then they throw it away because Katie Lou Samuelson hops in front of the outlet pass. This is a team in UConn that takes advantage of teams' mistakes better than anybody I've ever seen.
Samuelson with the free throws. She's into double figures again. Not a surprise. She's been in doubles every game this year. 12 points already for Samuelson. There's Sincor, the skip to Ramacheri. And Ramacheri, a whistle and a foul is going to be called going against Dangerfield. That's 3 on Crystal Dangerfield. We talked about the bench. There just is not much of one for Gino Auriemma. For the most part, they rotate 7 players through with the return of Sanaya Chong.
Yeah, with Chong back, 7 primarily. They've got a couple extra players that have gotten spot minutes at end of games, but that's how deep they go is 7. And 3 fouls on Dangerfield could be a problem.
A good look for Shepard that pops out. 1 for 7 from the floor. Then UConn runs the other end, and Collier with an easy 2.
There you go. That's where if UConn faces teams with a big, and they're going to be outsized a lot this year, they want to try to outrun the bigs down the court, and that's exactly what Collier just did to Shepard.
What hands by Samuelson. She'll lope to the other end for another 2 and a timeout taken by Nebraska as the Huskies respond to the mini run by the Huskers and stretch the lead to 20 once more. UConn trying to make it a rough holiday for Husker fans in Lincoln.
And welcome home 2016 Olympian and former Husker women's basketball student athlete Danielle Page. A 4-year Leonard winner for the Huskers from 2005 to 2008, Page became the first basketball player in Husker history to earn an Olympic medal when she helped Serbia to bronze at the Rio Games. She's joined at center court by Nebraska Executive Associate Director of Athletics, Mark Bain. Congratulations and welcome home, Husker Olympian Danielle Page.
First Husker basketball Olympic medalist, Danielle Page, who did it for Team Serbia in Rio. They got the bronze this year. And congratulations to Danielle Page, who's going to join us here in just a moment. UConn is doing some work inside. They could use Danielle Page. 18-2, UConn outscoring the Huskers in the paint. Emily Wood with Jasmine Sincor in the backcourt, and Sincor going to work with Hannah Whitish. 12 on the shot clock for the Huskers. There's Haver, and a foul, offensive foul going against Nebraska. And as mentioned, as promised, Danielle Page making her way over here to join us here. Kevin Kugler, of course, you know Brenda Van Langen. It is a pleasure to have you with us. We have to mention this because people saw the footage of you. You are not 100% healthy at this point, unless you've just decided that crutches are a nice fashion statement. And I don't believe that's the case. Why the crutches?
No, I had some work done about 2 months ago, and I'm hoping to be back 100% for next season, overseas.
You got the chance, though, to participate in the Olympics in Rio. It was one of those moments, I know, that had to be just an amazing moment for you. How does a young girl from Colorado end up on Team Serbia?
Geez, I got really lucky. The head coach of the Serbian national team was coaching in France while I was playing there professionally. She saw me, liked my game, offered me a passport, and the rest is history, I guess.
And you're the first Husker basketball player to ever win a medal. I mean, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's incredible considering all the talent that has come through Nebraska throughout the years. It's really an honor.
What was the Olympic experience like for you?
It was a great experience, top to bottom. The facilities were great. The village was great. I had a great time with my teammates, and it always helps to end on a win, you know?
And you played so well. It was fun to watch you and your team play because it was the first time Serbia had won a medal at the Olympics.
Yes, yeah, and I think we play an exciting brand of basketball, you know, lots of pressing, lots of scoring. The fans like that, right?
Absolutely.
And there were plenty of them in Carioca Arena that night for the bronze medal and then the gold medal game. That was a very busy and exciting day in the arena.
Yeah, we had a lot of support. The Rio was great. The fans really came out and supported us. We had a lot of Serbian fans there, which was surprising. It was a fantastic atmosphere.
And you had Serbian teammates here at the University of Nebraska when you played. Isn't that part of the tie?
Yeah. I had 2 Serbian teammates, 1 from Montenegro, and so that all kind of worked out really well.
Well, there's the bio, the official, just to prove that we are not making any of this up. It shows up in print. And third all-time still in Nebraska with 207 blocked shots. When you see Nebraska getting the chance to play a team like UConn, does it make you pine to be back in that Husker uniform one more time?
Oh, absolutely. To get an opportunity to play against these girls and their history, it would really be something. And to play in this arena, this is fantastic. This has got to be one of the best in the country.
Well, Gino Auriemma, being the coach of the Olympic team this summer for the United States, he said this is the best arena that he's been in all year.
I totally believe that, and these fans are crazy, and they really help this team out.
You know, some great shots of you. Now, I got to show you, I'm not a hoarder, but I actually still have my chart.
Oh, my goodness,
from when you were a senior. There you go. I'm showing her. How about this? And look at this. So it says, this is what I said about you. Starts with defense, most points away from the basket, top of the key, elbow, baseline.
It's still true.
Pull-up jumper. All those things are true,
That's
right?
Still true. That's the scout right
There's
now.
a scouting report right there. How about that?
Scout. Don't tell anyone.
I'll keep that to myself.
All right, thank you.
I was excited about being able to see you here because I have fond memories of you and your teammates during that time, and I know you do as well. As you think back, maybe what's your favorite memory as you think back?
Well, I mean, on-court stuff, when we beat Baylor my freshman year, the year they won the national championship in triple overtime, that was probably my best on-court memory. But obviously, it's the relationships you build with your teammates and your coaches through your 4 years. That's the part that really sticks with you.
Playing overseas, how often do you get the chance to come back to Nebraska?
Not as often as I'd like. Since I graduated, I've been back maybe 3 times. And this was a great opportunity, unfortunately, because of my injury, to get back here. But I'm really happy that I was able to and meet the new coaching staff and connect with the girls. It's been a great opportunity.
Now, do you get a lot of requests to show off the medal everywhere you go?
Yeah, everyone just assumes I carry it around. Yeah, why aren't you wearing the medal? And I'm like, I'm grocery shopping right now. I'm sorry, next time I see y'all, I'll make sure to bring it.
That's great. That's great.
And the 3 for Katie Lou Samuelson, who has 19 first-half points to pace UConn up 44-20. This UConn team is some kind of machine. 85 straight games. And Danielle is somebody who has played this game at a very high level, both Olympic-wise and internationally. It's hard to fathom winning 85 consecutive games against any competition.
Yeah, I can't imagine maintaining that level of success, you know, in Division I. I mean, really at any level, but at Division I basketball, I mean, what Gino's doing with his team, it's you know, historic. It's really something to watch.
It's Olympic night here. Kia Nurse, of course, playing for the Canadian national team.
Man, she lit us up when we played Canada. She had about 30 on us. But it's all right, we got the medal, so
yeah,
she can have her 30.
Exactly.
And I know some of your teammates. I know Vonnie Turner is here. Did I hear Nikki Bober?
Nikki Bober's here as well. Yeah, so it's great to catch up with those girls and see how they're doing. Me and Vonnie Turner were actually supposed to be playing on the same team professionally over in Hungary this season before I got injured. And so I was really looking forward to that, and you know, hopefully that'll work out in the future sometime.
Nice entry pass from Natalie Butler to get it inside to Nafisa Collier, and the Huskies stretch the lead. Well, Danielle, it's such a pleasure to have you back in Lincoln. Congratulations on the medal. Congratulations on getting honored here at your alma mater tonight. What a fun night for you, and I know you've got a lot of folks who are clamoring for your attention and time tonight. So we appreciate you taking a few minutes for us here on BTN.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and you guys do a great job. Thank you.
No, you didn't have to listen to much of us, so now you know. That's the best way to hear us. Thank you very much. So, Danielle Page, Serbian bronze medalist in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And a 48-22 lead and a timeout with 21.4 seconds to go in this first half. And for UConn, it just continues to roll along. And this is a program that is used to doing things like they're doing. I mean, when you've won 85 straight, you've won in almost every conceivable fashion. But they've not lost on the road to an unranked team in 12 years. In fact, 12 years ago to this day, they lost to Arizona State, December 21 of 2004. But Brenda, those numbers are just staggering.
No, they certainly are. And 6 national titles in the last 8 years, the last 4 in a row. It all started with that 1995 squad with Rebecca Lobo, but you can just name off all the tremendous UConn players over the year, from Sue Bird to Diana Taurasi to Maya Moore and Tina Charles to Brianna Stewart. And it's just amazing the talent that have come through, but the consistent excellence of this program.
13 seconds until halftime, with Samuelson leading the way. 19 for Samuelson, 10 for Collier. Nurse gives it back to Collier, and that's a travel. It's turnover number 6 for UConn. Unfortunately for Nebraska, 16 turnovers for the Huskers, and UConn scored 19 off of the Huskers' 16 turnovers.
This is just a team in Nebraska without a lot of experience at the guard position, and when you go against a team like UConn, there's not many teams like UConn, but when you go against UConn, you have to have experience at the guard position to pull you through.
With 1 second to go, Ramacheri throws up the prayer. It won't go, and halftime is here. UConn dominating through the first half with a 48-22 lead. After the break, stay tuned. The halftime report is coming. Rick Pizzo and Lauren Young standing by in our BTN studios in Chicago. Jeff Griesch of Nebraska taking a picture for a future yearbook, probably, as former Husker teammates get together on the night when their team takes on the #1 team in the land, the UConn Huskies. Alongside Brenda Van Langen, I'm Kevin Kugler back in Lincoln, where UConn dominating 48-22, and it's really been typical UConn basketball through this first half.
Well, they've scored in transition, UConn. They've been efficient in their offense. They've been very tough defensively. However, you've got to hit some shots if you're the Huskers. Jessica Shepard, who averages over 19 points per game, is 1 for 8 from the field. You've got to have players that have experience coming through when you're playing the best team in the country. UConn's awfully tough, but Nebraska has got to find a way to hit some shots.
26-4 the points in the paint for UConn. 19-5. UConn outscoring Nebraska off turnovers, and Katie Lou Samuelson doing what she does, scoring at a big clip.
Shooting from three-point range. She comes off screens well. She gets her feet set. She's ready to fire. Jessica Shepard has hit that three-pointer from the perimeter, but she's missed a lot of opportunities inside. She's passed up some as well. They need to continue to work the offense through her. If she's got the shot, take it. If not, share it with her teammates to try to get some rhythm offensively. And Amy Williams talked to us today. She knew that UConn was a heavy favorite in this game, but she said, we've got to get better. We've got to work on us. Do what we're supposed to be doing defensively. We've got to move with a purpose offensively. This is a young, inexperienced team that's growing with their first-year head coach, and she needs to see some real effort and energy from them here in the second half.
Well, compete was a big theme today. Compete, 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 and that's hard to do sometimes when you look up at a scoreboard starting in the second half and see yourselves down 26 points, but that's what Amy Williams is going to be looking for from her team. You
have to at this point. It doesn't matter what the score is. It matters how you execute, how much effort you show. And I'm sure Gino Auriemma has the same sort of theme with his players. Yes, everybody's going home for a couple of days for the holiday break, but you still have to play focus for another half of basketball and get better as a team. It's that time of year.
Kia Nurse will start it up for UConn as the third quarter is underway here in Lincoln. Sanaya Chong starting the second half on the floor. As Nurse will attack, and a whistle and a foul going to be called on Eilili. Isia Eilili, bright spot for this Nebraska team moving forward. The freshman out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. 2 points tonight, but she's used her length and her athleticism to be a factor on both ends of the floor, and there's going to be an offensive foul going against Nafisa Collier, trying to pick off Eli.
Yeah, that's exactly what she was doing. Eli, with her good quickness, was trying to get around the screen, so a little lean over on the illegal screen. And I think you're right. I think Nysia Eilili is a bright spot for the future of this program. And, you know, it's going to be a tough year for the Huskers. We've seen it not only in this game, but in non-conference play. But you've got to pick yourself up and build on positives, and that's one of the positive young players on this team that I think Amy Williams and her staff can build around.
Hand off now to Chong, who will set it up for UConn. A whistle and a foul away from the ball. Looked like Havers got tangled up with Samuelson, and Allie Havers with her first.
And I believe they're going to have to go to the monitor to check and see if that was excessive, because it was. I did see Havers go up with her forearm, and so if she extended or if she made an unnecessary movement, she can be called for a flagrant foul. So there's Havers on the side, and she gets her arm up as, I don't know, it looks like to me in that angle that Havers just had her arm up, and Samuelson, yeah, really tilts her head back. Now, from that angle, it looks like she pushes it, but from the above angle, didn't it look like Havers' arm just stayed in place?
It did, yeah. It was a little hard to do this first angle. And what you can't see is the elbow underneath the chin. Samuelson certainly, see if we can see it from high above. I mean, there may have been a little contact, but there may have also been a little, shall we say, veteran movement by Samuelson. And it'll just be a common foul, so nothing changes here.
Yeah, I didn't really see Havers make an unnecessary movement or something that wasn't a basketball play. Can they say, is that a basketball play? Yes, she was sturdy in her movement. Yes, there was contact, a foul was called, but it wasn't excessive, rising to the level of a flagrant one.
Off the inbound, Nurse gets the three to fall.
And that's, if you watch their games throughout the course of the year, that's a common play for them, is to run Nurse off those screens to get that wing three-point shot right in front of the inbounder.
5 for 10 from three-point land tonight for UConn. Simcoe trying to answer with the three, and the Huskers have really struggled. 3 for 13 from behind the arc for Nebraska.
UConn doesn't have that big inside. Morgan Tuck was a sturdy post player. She wasn't really tall inside, but she patrolled the lane. And Brianna Stewart, you know, at 6'4", 6'5", was out on the perimeter a lot. They really just bring their offense up high to open up the lane for drives and take advantage of Gabby Williams' athleticism. Collier uses her athleticism to just go get the offensive rebound. But when you watch them, just notice how spread the court is and how open the lane is for drives to the basket.
It's a fascinating thing, Brenda, to watch Gino Auriemma's shoot-arounds, because he is very calm and soft-spoken in this shoot-around. I mean, he walks up to instruct his team, and the place falls silent. There's not a word, there's not a peep. He speaks in unbelievably soft tones. You and I were leaning forward just to try to hear what he had to say. It's fascinating to watch somebody who's been at this a long time and has had great success work and push the buttons of his players in a shoot-around like that. And it was a learning experience for me, and I think anybody who has a chance to watch him work would enjoy it.
Well, he's just masterful at getting his players' attention, and that's one of the ways that he does it, is by speaking so softly that they have to be absolutely quiet to hear what he is saying.
Havers with the turnaround. That's not going to go. The rebound, Collier. Rebounding advantage for UConn, 27-19 on the boards. Looking inside, Williams gets tangled up with Havers, and the jump ball will send it back to Nebraska. Into the game comes Maddie Simon, also Riley Cascio-Jensen on the floor. Collier a moment ago with that rebound, her third double-double of the year. 12 points, 10 rebounds for Nafisa Collier. who was really one of the biggest reasons they beat Florida State in that season opener this year. It was a tight 2-point game. She had 28 points right out of the gate in that season opener for UConn.
You know, that was one of those games that UConn could have lost. You know, and Keisha Romero, the starting point guard for Florida State, was not playing in that game, but UConn found a way to win. They found a way to win in a tough, rugged game against Baylor, and they just built upon their confidence each game. They knew how much they were losing. They knew how much they were under a microscope nationally. People wanted to see how they were going to respond to graduating those 3 players, and with every game that they've played, they have gained more and more confidence.
Collier at the line with 1 more to come after making the first. Molly Bent will check in, 5'9" freshman guard, replacing Sanaya Chong.
And Molly Bent is a freshman for UConn that doesn't get a lot of playing time, only averages about 7 minutes per game.
Has scored 14 total points this year. Dad George was her high school coach for a few years at Barnstable High School before she moved on to Tabor Academy. So coach's daughter out there to get some work, and just because you're not seeing a whole lot of time as a true freshman doesn't really indicate a whole lot to what you might be as your career unfolds at UConn. It's just hard to work into that rotation sometimes.
The player development at UConn is incredible. Yes, they recruit some of the best in the country, and you see it on display, but the development of their skills and their fit within the framework of the team, it's pretty remarkable to see over the years how players improve from that freshman to senior years.
Maddie Simon. Here's Havers at the top with 13 to shoot. Jessica Shepard just 1 for 10 tonight, and a hand check's called against Gabby Williams.
Williams has bothered Shepard with her athleticism. Gabby Williams is only 5'11", but as I mentioned earlier, an Olympic class high jumper and extremely quick, and has bothered Shepard with that quickness.
Williams closing in on a double-double. She's got 10 points, 9 rebounds. Havers trying to go to work. Sincor got open for a 3. A little bit strong, and the rebound to Bent. Samuelson, the touch pass ahead to Nurse, runs it to the rim, count it, and the foul.
So unselfish, and always that extra pass made if it's available. We talked about the Big Ten stretch UConn is in, beating Ohio State, now against Nebraska. Their next game and their biggest test against Maryland. Maryland, a team that is undefeated. As you see, they also, when they get into conference play, have South Florida that's in the top 25. But Maryland is a team last year that, even with those 3 players that everybody knows, Stewart and Jefferson and Tuck, really challenged UConn and really played with a lot of brash, a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger. Brianna Jones had a tremendous game in that game against UConn, 24 points against them, and I expect Maryland to give UConn all they can handle. And as UConn builds on this win streak, that is going to be a big test for them.
That would appear to be the last big hurdle towards matching that 90-game win streak. Of course, the record is held by UConn. And this team, with their confidence continuing to grow, their final tune-up game before that showdown at Maryland following the holidays. And a foul inside going on Natalie Butler, her second foul. 13th foul in this third quarter.
Big Ten fans know how potent that Maryland team is, and UConn, we know, will come back the day after Christmas on the 26th, and that game against Maryland on the 29th. I'm sure everybody going to be tuned in to see that showdown. It should be a good one.
Ashio Jensen enters it inside to Washington. Triple team comes. Washington able to get rid of it. Back to Jensen for 3. Rebound tipped around to Simon, and the Huskers get new life. Maddie Simon, the pull-up in the paint, and her first 2 points after starting 0 for 4.
And you have to celebrate small victories. And that time, you had a triple team on Darian Washington, and she didn't turn it over. They get the extra possession. They get a good shot in the lane. You know, it's a game where there's a lot of things that aren't going your way if you're the Huskers, but you've got to celebrate and build upon the good things that do happen.
corner. The three dies on the rim. Sinclair with the rebound and a foul on Nafisa Collier. That is her third as Maddie Simon gets on the board. Good pull-up in the paint for the Huskers, but UConn rolling in Lincoln. Now that's a big emphasis for Amy Williams as she starts to put her fingerprints on this program. Huskers with that bucket by Maddie Simon stopping a 15-0 run for UConn to start this third quarter. Not an easy task, certainly, when you're playing a team like UConn, but your chemistry and your teamwork tested in adverse moments, and certainly an adverse moment tonight for Nebraska.
And Amy Williams told us that her #1 priority is team culture, and it's something that they are going to build on, and this is one of those times that adversity strikes, and how are you going to handle it when things get tough?
Hannah Whitish has shown a couple of flashes tonight. She's got 6 points. The jumper for Butler a little bit strong, and the rebound for Darian Washington then taken away. Another turnover for Nebraska. That's 18 Husker turnovers. UConn's cashed in 22 points off Nebraska turnovers tonight. Chong on the drive, the dish to Nurse for 3, and Kia Nurse with 14 points now, the 4th UConn Husky to be in double figures tonight.
She does it quietly, doesn't she? I mean, she just takes her shots when she's open. We saw her on the inbounds play. She's such a good leader, good defensive player.
How good was she against DePaul in their big win over DePaul earlier this year? She went 6 for 9 from 3. She scored 33 points in 27 minutes of action. Just lit it up.
And it's a DePaul team that's ranked, and UConn just ran roughshod, and a lot of it was the performance of Kia Nurse.
Nurse stepping through 2 defenders. The scoop not going to go. Collier there to get the rebound. Shot clock did not reset. 5 to shoot. Chong launching under duress, and the rebound to Havers. 2:50 remaining in this third quarter.
And we're talking about, can Nebraska handle and work through the adversity? You know, I've known Amy a long time. She was Amy Gusso when I was a coach here, and she came as a walk-on to this team. And I love her approach and her positive attitude. But she brought a little old school to the Huskers. She said, you know, there's an old song by New Edition, Can You Stand the Rain? And she had them put it on their iPods, iPhones, on their, you know, their iTunes, whatever.
Yep.
And said, I want you to listen to this old school. And basically it says, the tough times are going to come. Can you stand the rain? And I just love that about her. You know, she's willing to go a little 90s with them to say, all right, this is how we're going to handle these tough situations.
Yeah, and it's definitely raining right now. Ian Nurse completing the 3-point play after the foul a moment ago on Esther Ramacheri. Her second. Foul trouble, Simon and Eilili each with 3. 3 for Dangerfield and Collier for UConn. And almost a turnover. Whitish able to recover and grab that loose ball. Hannah Whitish, freshman out of Wisconsin Player of the Year in her senior season. Jessica Shepard finding Eilili, and Eilili hits the 3. She's got 5.
And so we've seen some instances that it's those things that Amy Williams can build on and say, look, when we passed the ball, when we moved it around the perimeter, when we set the screens, we had good things that came as a result of that.
And the good news is you're not going to see another team like UConn the rest of the year. You'll see Maryland, very good squad. You'll see Ohio State. You'll see some excellent talent. But UConn obviously in a class by themselves, about to get their 86th consecutive win.
And Jessica Shepard just forced that shot as she drove into a double team, trying to force the shot up, commits the offensive foul.
69-30, first foul on Shepard, 6th. Around 15th foul on the Huskers in this third quarter. Inside, Chong feeds it down low to Butler, who cannot connect. Ramacheri going the other way for Nebraska. Whitish gives it to trailing Shepard. Now Eilili working against Samuelson. Deflected pass, and that'll go out of bounds to Nebraska.
It was actually the right read as those screens were coming together. On the backside, it was Grace Mitchell that was open. She just didn't put enough air under it. And again, UConn with their active hands in the right position to deflect the basketball and not allow Nebraska to take advantage of the mistake.
Whitish with 4 on the shot clock. Shepard at the top of the key. And Shepard unable to connect. Offensive rebound by Eilily. Her athleticism will be an asset for Nebraska as they go through conference play.
Yeah, she and Whitish right now and Grace Mitchell, all freshmen, giving some very good quality minutes. You know, it's hard to say in a blowout like this, but you've got to look for those things as these young players mature. And what can they learn? What an opportunity to play the best team in the country and find out what you can and can't do and learn from it and build from it.
Well, there's that old saying, Brenda, is it steel sharpens steel? And when you play against the best, you've got to learn something from those opportunities. UConn up by 39, Nebraska in the final seconds of this third quarter. Ramacheri got an open look from 3. And there's again Eilily. 2 seconds, 1 second. She doesn't realize the clock is running out, and that shot not going to go. And we've reached the end of 3 quarters. So Eilily with a few rebounds tonight. She's got 6 boards tonight. Huskers trying to build on some of the youngsters in the lineup right now, but still down big at home. Iowa Hawkeyes have won 4 straight. Peter Jock leading the way. Zach Irvin pacing Michigan this season as the Hawks and Wolverines wrap up non-conference play. We've got conference schedules beginning next week.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
It is hard.
Non-conference, and we all made it through in one piece. Well, not quite. It's not over yet. 69-30. Fourth quarter underway here in Lincoln. UConn has led throughout after going up 22-7 at the end of 1.
Nebraska coming out in the fourth quarter to looks like they're going to just work on some zone defense, and it's a good team to work on it against because UConn is patient. They are tremendous passers, and they will work until they find the open shot, and they did just that.
Shepard, an aggressive move, but again, on a rough night for Shepard, not able to get it done. Grace Mitchell, though, with the offensive rebound.
Well,
and there's the takeaway. The steal by Molly Bent, and Bent will take it to the other end for 2. First 2 tonight for Molly Bent, 16 points on the year for the freshman.
And a heads-up play for her at the top of the key. It's like Nebraska will have something good happen, and they'll turn it over, but UConn, no matter if they're starters or players that play a lot or Molly Bent coming off the bench, same attitude, same work ethic out of the top of the key, try to get the steal, go down and lay it up.
13 steals now tonight for UConn. Nebraska has 1.
They're very active with their hands, and any mistake that you make in ball handling, presenting the ball, making not a crisp pass or a deliberate pass, they'll take advantage.
And you mentioned when Nebraska's had something good happen, it seems like UConn is able to find something good for themselves. It's almost like that sharpens their focus just a little bit. Oh, you did something good? Well, we got to do something good.
Yeah, they're going to step right on it, squash your dreams.
Shepard finding Eilily, who loses that one, and it's intercepted. Taken away by Chong, who will push it up the floor for the Huskies. Number 1 UConn rolling on the road as Chong's pull-up not going to go. Offensive rebound, Molly Bent. Natalie Butler with the turnaround, and for Butler, her first 2 of the night.
We haven't heard a lot from her today, but I think she's an important cog on this team. She was the Big East Rookie of the Year in her freshman year at Georgetown before transferring over, and I think she can provide not only quality minutes inside, but good defensive presence with her size, and she's got a nice shooting touch offensively as well.
1/3 Husker turnover of the night. 76-30 advantage. 7-0 run to start the fourth quarter for UConn.
But don't you think somebody like Natalie Butler has to have looked at what Stephanie Dolson did at UConn and think, hey, I want to go and be Stephanie Dolson? And she's got a lot of the characteristics Stephanie Dolson had: the long arms, the soft hands, the size. And Dolson was such a tremendous asset for UConn when she was a screener, a rebounder, made the shots when she needed to.
But you don't need a big scorer in that role.
No, and Natalie Butler can come in and play a similar role for this version of the Huskies.
They didn't get to see Natalie Butler on the court last year as quickly as they wanted. She had that injury, a thumb injury, that cost her the first month of the year. Didn't make her debut till almost a year ago, December 30th, when she was able to get on the court for the first time after transfer. Had to sit out that whole year, of course, after the transfers. Grace Mitchell hits the three. She's got 5.
Again, some bright spots for some of the freshmen on this team.
Night where Jessica Shepard has gone just 1 for 12, scoring 3 points. Only one time this year Shepard failed to reach double figures. That was the Cal game. She had 8 in that one and was really harassed in that game, and more so here tonight.
There's Butler again with great activity around the rim.
Entry inside to Mitchell. Eiley. Different lineup on the floor right now for Nebraska. A lot of youth out there, with Havers providing the anchor, and the jumper won't go for Whitish. You've got Whitish, you've got Jensen, both freshmen in the backcourt with Eiley up front, Havers, the senior, up front, and then also on the floor, Grace Mitchell, another freshman.
And people, watching this that are UConn fans may not know that, this is a real transition year for Nebraska. Connie Yori resigning last year. One of their best three-point shooters, Natalie Romeo, transferring. A couple of players that had signed their letters of intent, deciding not to come. And so there are a lot of pieces missing that a UConn team would have expected would have been here when they signed up for these games.
It's a very different look for Nebraska from the bench and from the floor. Natalie Romeo, certainly somebody who would have provided a real lift scoring-wise for Nebraska this year. One of the best three-point shooters the Huskers have seen.
Well, she was a tremendous shooter and ball handler on the perimeter, and has transferred to Washington, already making an impact for Washington, who is a highly ranked team in the top 15. I think they've moved up close to the top 10. So Romeo making her impact there at Washington.
Work inside for Eiley with the block. And now a double dribble turns it back over to Nebraska. Gino Auriemma is going to look at this game, and he's got an 80-36 lead. He's going to see 10 turnovers. He's going to see some things, and he's going to say, well, that wasn't our most crisp performance of the year. They still shoot 50% from the floor, 54% from 3. No coach is ever happy.
No, and he demands excellence more than anybody maybe in the history of the game.
Eiley gets one to drop. She's got 7. Had 19 against Cal, 13 against San Jose State. That's the only win the Huskers have had in their last 7 games, is that win over San Jose State. It's been a rough road for Nebraska, losing 6 of their last 7. In the corner, Kyla Irwin, her first attempt won't go. Molly Bent with the rebound. Kyla Irwin, a 6'2 freshman from State College, Pennsylvania. Her mom, Bethany, was a high school coach. She played at Penn State. Big Ten tie for Kyla Irwin.
Yes.
Chong on the dish into the corner. Wide open look for 3. That's not going to go for Bent, and a foul is called. And it'll stay on this end. 4:31 remaining in the 4th quarter. And for the UConn Huskies, just skating through their trip to Lincoln. An 80-38 lead over Nebraska. 38 UConn with the lead over Nebraska. 4:31 remaining in the 4th. Kevin Kugler alongside Brenda Van Langen. Some news and notes around the Big Ten Conference. Dominique Oden is the freshman of the week for Purdue. And you see in men's basketball, mentioned that non-conference play coming to a close. Wisconsin, Purdue, Indiana remain ranked in the top 25. Huskers trying to figure out a few things here to make themselves feel better moving forward. That is not one of them. Kia Nurse with the open 3. We've seen that before tonight for UConn, and for Nurse, who has 20 points.
And opponents have seen it all year, and that's something that it's amazing how when teams can go through inbounds plays in their scouting report in practice, and then it just continues to happen over and over. UConn executes well, but that's a nice answer for Nebraska. Again, kind of building on those small positives that occur during the course of the game.
Yeah, Hannah Whitish now with 9 points for the Huskers off the bench.
And 8 made 3-pointers overall.
Free throw line jumper not going to go. And the rebound underneath for Maddie Simon. Shepard back on the floor for Nebraska. 1 for 12, 3 points, 5 turnovers tonight. Rough night for the first team all Big Ten pick.
She hasn't been good at the rim, and she's been careless with her passing. Just has not been as sharp as the Huskers have needed her to be.
White is feeling a little bit off the mark on that one. And UConn back up the floor. 3:20 to go in this one. Huskies rolling, and a travel turns it back over. Or substitution timeout, rather. There's Rachel Blackburn, who would certainly be helping Nebraska were she not injured and on the bench right now.
Yeah, she's a 6'3" sophomore who had to have a couple of knee surgeries, and here's how tough she is. Amy Williams told me that she found out she was going to have surgery, and she practiced hard for the 2 weeks up until the surgery. She's a tough kid. They'll lean on her in the future.
Timeout on the floor with UConn up by 42. 83-41, UConn with 3:17 remaining in this fourth quarter in Lincoln. Gino Auriemma, a little smile on the head coach's face.
And he shaved.
He did.
I was giving him a hard time today at practice. He was getting a little scruffy. I'd noticed on the Ohio State game, he had a little growth there on his chin.
And because you asked him about it, it was gone by the time the game started.
Oh, he probably planned to anyway.
Chong with 4 to shoot. The dish into the corner. Open 3 for Tierney Lawler, and an air ball, and that's a shot clock violation. Tierney Lawler, the former walk-on, off the bench for the first time tonight.
Well, you see him nodding. You know, they ran the play. They got her the shot. She just wasn't able to hit it.
Grace Mitchell, 5 points tonight for Nebraska. Entry pass to Shepard, working against Butler. The kick into the corner and an open look. That's an air ball caught underneath by Irwin. Bent will back it out. It's tipped out of bounds by Nebraska. So you're seeing the limited bench that's in now for UConn. Still some players we've seen a lot of, like Chong, but Molly Bent getting some extended playing time. Tierney Lawler on the floor for the first time. Kyla Irwin getting some extended minutes as well. Bounce down low to Butler, and that ball taken away. Nebraska gets the turnover, and Hannah Whitish will start it up the floor. Mitchell thought about pulling the trigger on that 3. Now Jensen shovels over to Mitchell. 13 to shoot, 2 minutes to go. Here's Shepard. Shepard on the drive to the rim. That won't go again. Rough night for Jessica Shepard. 1 for 13. I gotta believe there have not been too many nights at any point in her basketball career where she's had a rough shooting night like this one.
No, and early, whenever you miss some point-blank shots early in a game, it works on your mind. And she just wasn't able to overcome that and never came through with any strong shots inside tonight.
Butler can't get it to go. Saved in the corner for Irwin. The dump down low to Bent. And they'll back it out and reset the offense. And Sanaya Chong, the senior, out there directing traffic with this inexperienced group on the floor. Chong inside is fouled with 1:07 to play. She'll get 2 shots. Maddie Simon with the foul. For Gino Auriemma and company, a couple of days off, and then back to work against Maryland, and a real interesting matchup for UConn against the Terrapins.
I think that's very interesting because of the confidence that Maryland plays UConn and have each time that they've played them. Brianna Jones is shooting 67% from the field, and she is a tough matchup for the interior players for UConn. Shatori Kimbrough has been tough all year long, and Destiny Slocum, a freshman for Maryland, has been averaging in double figures. So I'm really looking forward to that matchup because I think Maryland can pose some challenges for UConn, and they'll be rested though. UConn, after a few days away for the holiday break, and with their short bench, they will have an opportunity to kind of regroup after their grueling road schedule.
Well, this Nebraska crowd has stuck around. You can see behind in the shot there for a game that's been out of hand since very early. And that's one thing Amy Williams says she wants to capitalize on, is the fact that this is a passionate fan base that expects to be good and wants to be good. And she says that's something that she can use in recruiting and in building this program. And
she knows firsthand, as a former student athlete, how that feels to be so loved by all these Husker fans. And what a great showing tonight. And again, this is why UConn came back here. There were such great fans here when they were here for the regionals in 2014, even though Nebraska wasn't playing, and they've showed up in force and stayed throughout tonight's game. Impressive.
Huskies can dribble this one out if they so choose. They do not have to shoot it again. And Husker fans giving a standing ovation, not only to the Huskers, but they're giving an ovation to UConn.
They are.
Yeah. I mean, they've gotten a chance to see the #1 team in the land come to town tonight. And UConn wins it 84-41 as they hold Nebraska to just 19 points in the second half and roll to the victory.
Much like respectful Husker fans cheering their opponents off the football field, you saw that tonight from these fans. And even though UConn wasn't as sharp as they typically are, they looked awfully good and deserve a break here before the holidays.
Well, certainly a dominant performance tonight for the Huskies. 4 players in double figures, Samuelson with 23 and Nurse with 20. That'll do it from Lincoln. Our final score, 84-41. UConn wins it. For Brenda Van Langen, I'm Kevin Kugler. This has been a presentation of the Big Ten Network. Again, our final score, UConn wins their 86th straight game, 84-41. So long from Lincoln.